Hi, I'm Diane Kometa, and today on Dishin with Di, I'm going to show you how to make my homemade apple pie. Really delicious with old-fashioned homemade crust, and it's simple to make. So let me show you what you need, and we'll get started on Dishin with Di. You need some apples. I have some Red Delicious here. You can choose whatever you'd like, but I also like to throw in a McIntosh because it makes it a little bit juicy. So these are the apples that I always use, and I've washed these and I've patted them dry. I also have some all-purpose flour, and I have a lemon for the juice, some granulated sugar, and some cinnamon, nutmeg, and a little bit of salt just to bring out the flavors. Now you're also going to need the pie dough. So I have my homemade pie dough here, and I've taken this out of the refrigerator just about 5 to 10 minutes ago. Make your dough at least an hour before you start, and then you want to take it out just a couple minutes before you roll it. Now if you're using a store-bought crust, you want to roll that just a little bit bigger than the way that they come in the package, so that you have enough to crimp around the edges. So the first thing we're going to do is roll the dough. So I'm just going to put a little flour on my board here and take my pie dough, and I'm just going to put a little on there. And you want to make the dough about 12 inches. So we're doing a 9-inch pie here, and you want to make it a couple inches larger than the pie. So start in the middle and then just bring it forward, and you want to just turn it. If it starts to come apart around the edges, just push it back together, but you're just going to get this so that it's bigger than the pie plate, and I'll show you how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. And as you go along, make sure you flour your rolling pin so it doesn't stick. So what I do next is take the pie plate and I just kind of hold it over to make sure it's big enough. So you want like an inch or two on each side there. So now what I'm going to do is just take my rolling pin, and for this recipe I'll leave a link for you right here. This is my deep dish pie crust. I use the little bit of extra dough on the deep dish because I like to have more to play with. So now just take your rolling pin and wrap the dough around the edge. If there's too much flour underneath, just kind of brush that off and roll that right towards you. So you just rolled it around the pin. Then get your pie plate and then just leave a little bit hanging over the edge here and just gently unroll it right into the pie plate there. And then just kind of push that into place. You see, that's a real nice dough. It's easy to handle. So you want that little extra around the edge. Now, there might be a little bit too much, so I'm just going to go and I'm going to kind of trim it. You can even just go like this and just, trim it off. And now save any of the extra pieces in case you need those, if you need like a little patch or something like that. And then just set this aside, and then you're going to work on the top crust, which you should also have out of your fridge and ready to go. So we're just going to do the same thing and roll this one out too. The top crust is done, and I'm doing the same thing, and I'm rolling this around my pin. And what I have here is a baking sheet that I put some plastic on, and I'm just going to unroll this right onto this baking sheet, just like this. And then I'm going to take this crust along with my pie shell, and I'm going to put both of these into the refrigerator to chill for about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to get the filling ready. Now this is a really important step because while you were working with the dough, the fats got soft, and you want to make sure that they're nice and cold before you put your filling in, because when you put everything into the oven, the heat is going to make those fats melt, of course. But if they're already soft and starting to melt, then the pie crust is going to shrink. And then also if it's warm and you put that filling in there, then the juices from the filling are going to make the bottom crust get real soggy. So put this in the fridge and chill it for about 30 minutes. If you want to speed it up, you can put it into the freezer, but no more than 15 minutes. Don't forget about it in there. It'll get like rock hard. Okay, so I'm going to pop this into the fridge, and then I'll be right back and we'll make the filling. Once you get your apples peeled, then what you want to do is take them and cut them in half. and then one more time, and then again. And then there's the core, and I just take that and I slice it right out. It's very simple this way. So again, once it's cut it again, and then one more time, whoops, and then cut that core right out. Then you're going to slice the apples nice and thin. So real thin, just like this, and then keep your bowl right next to you and put the apples right into the bowl. Then I have the lemon here. So as you go along, you just want to squeeze some of that lemon juice right over top of the apples and then toss it around a little bit. What I also do is I cut the McIntosh apple up first, and as I'm going through, I kind of throw a few pieces of the McIntosh in there, so it's really well distributed. It's not just like all in one little spot. So the other thing you want to make sure is you preheat your oven while you're doing this. So as soon as you start peeling those apples, turn your oven on to 425 degrees and put the rack in the center. So once I get done these apples, then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Now we're ready to start making the filling. So I have a nice bowl here, and I'm going to start by putting in that granulated sugar and also the flour and those spices. The cinnamon and nutmeg are going to make this taste absolutely fabulous. Now you just want to whisk this together thoroughly, get everything really evenly distributed. And then you're going to take this mixture and put some of it, not all of it, into your apples. So just sprinkle about half of it in. And then give that a little toss around. I just like to do it a little bit at a time because I don't want there to be one area where there's just like a whole bunch of sugar and stuff. So then just put the rest in and mix it all through really well. That only takes a second. And what I also did was I took my pie crust out of the fridge, and I have the top crust here too, and I put the bottom shell on a baking sheet, and I put some foil on there. That way, if anything bubbles over, it's not going to dirty the baking sheet, so it's going to save me a little bit on cleanup. So what I'm going to do now is take this filling and put it right into the shell. So just gently put it in there, kind of pile it so that it's in the center. And then I have a little bit of butter here that I've cut up into small pieces, and this is cold. And you're just going to take this and kind of evenly distribute it all throughout the filling. So now that you have all of the butter on there, you want to grab the top crust. So it makes it easy because it's right on this piece of plastic. And then what I do is just kind of take it and just put it right on there. Just be careful. See, there you go. Just kind of position that. And then go around and take the top crust, and there's the bottom crust, and you just want to tuck it under, just like that. Just tuck it right under. And just keep going. All right, that looks good. And now take yourself a knife, and you're going to make some slits in the pie. So I usually make about 5 slits. So start like this. And there we go. That looks pretty, right? And now you just want to go around and kind of crimp the edges. So I just kind of grab it and I pinch it like that. You could also take your knuckles and just push your finger in and go like this. Whatever you find easiest for you. And what that's going to do is like seal it and then also give it a nice decorative edge. And then I have a little bit of cream here. So you use cream or milk, and we're just going to brush this over the top. And this is going to help get it nice and golden brown, so just brush that all over. I also have about a tablespoon of granulated sugar. I'm just going to take this and sprinkle this all over the top of the pie, and that's going to help it get a little bit crispy on there. And that is it. Now we're going to put this into our 425-degree oven and let it cook for about 40 to 50 minutes until it gets nice and golden brown, and you'll start to see some of the filling bubbling through those slits. Now during the last like 20 to 30 minutes, you might see that the edges of the crust are starting to get a little bit brown. So you don't want that to get too brown because it'll kind of get burnt. So I have here a pie shield. So you can pick one of these up at the store, and what you're going to do is put this on during that last like 20 minutes or so. Now if you don't have one of these, what I used to do before I had one was make one by hand with a little bit of foil. So this just goes around the edge of the pie, just like this. So the pie shield fits over top like that, and you don't want to put it on now because it's too soft. So during the end, you just pop that thing on there, and that'll protect the edges of your pie. So pop this in the oven, and when it's done, let it sit on a rack to cool for at least 2 hours before you cut it. I know you're going to want to cut it right away, but if you do, all the juices are going to come out, and you don't want that. So you need to let it sit for at least 2 hours, preferably a little longer than that. So when this is all done, I'll show you what it looks like. If the top of your pie looks like it's getting a little bit too brown, just take a piece of foil and tent it over the top of your pie. The pie is done and it's cooling on the rack, and look at that beautiful golden crust. Leave me a comment below this video and let me know what kind of apple recipes you'd like to see and pie recipes. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm going to choose someone and I am going to make the recipe that they suggest. This recipe and everything else can be found on my website, dishinwithdi.com, and I hope I made your life a little easier, more enjoyable, and delicious. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.